Closeup is brought to you by the Kia Sorento R, redefining the power of Kia.
Newsflash, we're fat. According to one survey, only the Americans and the Mexicans are fatter. Other surveys give us a different ranking, but regardless, we're up there. And while we all know a lot of it has to do with our food choices, guess what? It also has a hell of a lot to do with where we live and what mum and dad let you do. Here's Matt Chisholm.
We urban folk live in a busy and often chaotic world.
All that technology promised so much to be so much better, and it just ended up being worse. Like, how did that happen, guys? Come on.
And with buses, trains and cars as good as they are, walking is out and sitting is in.
We're certainly a lot less active all round than we were.
Gabrielle, how do you get to school?
My mum drops me off in the car.
And is that pretty common?
Yeah, lots of people get dropped off in the car.
The other day we were walking to school and four-wheel drive leaps up on the curb and window slides down, and the mother of one of the parents of a classmate leans out and says, you know, what's wrong? And I'm going, well, nothing. She goes, well, is your car broken down, you know, need a ride? And I was like, well, no, we're walking. And she's just sort of like, what? What do you mean you're walking? My kids aren't allowed to walk home from school without permission. I just told them to do it anyway, and if someone catches them, run for it.
With pounding the pavement seen, at least by some, as a sign of, well, slightly deviant behaviour, it's hardly surprising then that we're the third fattest nation in the world.
We're going to experience more disability and an earlier death because we're getting diabetes, heart disease, these sorts of things from our poor lifestyles. As parents, we're now looking down the barrel of being the first generation to go backwards in lifespan.
Something AUT Professor Grant Schofield wants to nip in the bud. And he's just been given the green light on $1.2 million of funding over 3 years to do just that, focusing on our teenagers.
It's the time where they drop off being active and they tend to stay at that activity for the rest of their life.
What happens when you get to high school?
Like, it all changes. No one can be bothered anymore. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because they're going through puberty.
And does that mean you can just, like, put your feet up or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that's a sad reflection because, you know, some of the most fun you're ever going to have as a kid is getting up to no good on the way to and from school.
Grant calls it free-ranging, a bit of old-fashioned tomfoolery, which he says is not only good for our body, but also our brain.
The prefrontal cortex that manages risk develops when you expose it to risk. I would say kids need some risk and some adventure on their own terms. Now, you can get that when they're 8 climbing a tree, and that's my preference, or they might get it when they're 18 behind the wheel of a Subaru Legacy getting chased by the cops. You know, your choice, society. Where do you think's the best place?
Why do you think it is that everyone gets picked up and dropped off from school or they take the bus? Why is that?
I think a lot of people do it for safety reasons, and people can't be bothered, and maybe it's like sometimes really cold in the morning.
Our kids have never been safer. That they're not getting stranger danger problems any more than they used to, and the world's just generally a safer place.
So, if it's never been safer, what is it about city life that makes us so inactive?
Well, we're in a situation now where you can spend your whole life sitting and you can do almost everything. You can communicate with your friends on your computer. You don't have to get out of the house and go and see them. You give them a call on your cell phone. You can jump in your car and go to a drive-through.
And according to Grant, those damn cars are our biggest problem.
We've ended up designing cities over the last 40 or 50 years in New Zealand around cars. So we've built neighbourhoods where they tend to be single land use, so there's only houses there, and the only way to get there is by car. So no surprise, we're sitting on our butt, not moving.
Our older suburbs, generally a healthier place to live, independent of wealth.
They were, in most cases, established before cars were invented. They tend to be high density, mixed land use, and well-connected streets. And when you live in that sort of neighbourhood, you're way less, you move more.
And while little changes can be made in our existing cities,
this Wynyard Quarter is a great example of urban redevelopment.
the Christchurch quake gave us a little taste of what neighbourhoods could be like.
The schools were closed, power was off, so and there was no driving anywhere. So you had these sort of communities starting to interact with each other, and you had kids just roaming around the neighbourhoods, doing stuff and helping.
What would you say to planners doing the Christchurch rebuild?
We want, a decent amount of people in the area and build the streets with big wide footpaths and little narrow roads.
Won't people complain when they're trying to get to work by car?
Oh, hopefully they'll just decide it's easier to walk, so they will.